What's up, everybody? Dave from the Rebel Rave here. It is Tuesday morning, March 6th, and last night was the series finale of Star Wars Rebels. I meant to record a review of it last night after it aired, but I've been in a perpetual state of sleep depravity for a couple years now, so I fell asleep, like, immediately after. But before I get into the review, I want to say, check out the channel, like this video if you dig it, subscribe if you want to see more from us. Usually I've got a co-host. The name of the show is The Rebel Rave with Rob and Dave. Rob's usually with me, and we discuss a whole manner of things Star Wars related, and we do fun Star Wars projects and stuff. Check out the other videos. So now on to the review. First, Star Wars Rebels, I've been hot and cold with a little bit ever since its premiere. It's had its ups.
Ahsoka.
Anakin.
And it's had its downs.
Carabas.
Alright, where's Vizago?
Fall back.
I thought the first season started off really strong, and I really dug all of the characters and where they were coming from at that time. But over the course of the series, what I began to dislike was Ezra. I found everybody else in the cast really engaging. I found all the other main characters to be much more interesting than him. And people like to throw around Mary Sue regarding Rey. He was that male equivalent. I think they call it a Gary Stu to me. It felt like they wanted to take him and tempt him with the dark side, but they never really went as far as they could have with it. He wasn't engaging. At first, he was like Aladdin, but in Star Wars in that first season, those first couple episodes, and I thought that was awesome. But after that, he just kind of became a spaz that happened to be good at most things and happened to be really good at the Force. So I just thought it was weird. However, these last few episodes of Rebels absolutely ended on a high note, and they actually did a lot to redeem Ezra's character for me. I'm going to start with around Jedi Knight. So that's the episode that Kanan, again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this, what are you doing watching a review? That's the episode where Kanan dies. He finally sacrifices himself to save some of the Rebels' crew. In one of the absolute most beautiful moments in Star Wars Rebels history, that explosion, like the sort of blue hue around him using the Force to keep it away from the rest of the crew, was really neat. And it was really emotional. Kanan and Hera were two of my favorite characters on the show, and I really wish the show would have spent more time on their dynamic. The next episode that was really engaging was the episode that found Sabine and Ezra going back to the Jedi Temple and finding a sort of Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque archaeological site there, which led to Ezra going to the World Between Worlds, that portal, and introduced some variation of time travel into the series. I've got to admit, I wasn't too keen on that, and I wasn't too keen on how they used it to save Ahsoka. With the season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice, is one of the best episodes of the series, but I really wish there was just more finality to her character. And I know we see her in the very last scene of the series finale, and it shows that she lived through the events of the original trilogy. However, that just didn't sit entirely well with me. I do think she just should have come to an end at Vader's hand and not been around during the original trilogy, because there's no excuse for her to have not been assisting the Rebel Alliance. I don't know. I'll reserve judgment until we see more of her story. Maybe they have, very specific things planned, or, more justification for her not being around. I'm trying not to be too quick to judge. That's just the initial impression I get. And then as far as time travel being introduced, man, that's risky. My absolute favorite series of all time, even above Star Wars, is Back to the Future. I love me some time travel, but it's dangerous. And once you introduce it, there's no going back. That portal's been opened, literally. I'm not sure they should have done it. It's risky, and I think they could have executed the same story points without introducing time travel. Now we get to the final 3 episodes, the 3 that premiered all together last night. And it started with Ryder's apparent betrayal of the Rebels crew, which was really just a trap for Governor Pryce and the Imperials. So that led to a great scene, that attack on the Rebel base by the Imperials and Governor Pryce which was awesome. It was one of the largest scale battles we've seen in Rebels, and it had some amazing shots in it. There was one shot in particular of Sabine using her jetpack and kind of flying through a few of those Imperial patrol dropships. It was film worthy. It was feature film worthy. It was awesome. Rook was formidable, and oh my gosh, the Loth Wolves were brutal, especially for a kids show. That was incredible. I thought that was a great scene. And then that led to the infiltration and sort of assault in the Imperial sphere in the center of the city, which turned out to be a ship. Cool. It was very reminiscent of the Trade Federation ships that we saw the center could separate from in Attack of the Clones. It kind of also reminded me of E.T.'s ship. With then Thrawn showing up and being as Thrawn as he's ever been, and threatening to basically kill everybody, having the upper hand, killing all the citizens of that main city in Lothal if Ezra doesn't give himself up. I thought that was brilliant. Again, it was the most Thrawn he's been in the series, and I'm glad that he ended on that note. You know what I mean? And he didn't end sort of on getting tricked. Yeah, he was defeated, but he had that last masterful play. The scene with Palpatine and tempting Ezra with reconnection with his family, I'm not sure if that was genuine or a trap. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I think using like the prequel trilogy era looking Palpatine to sort of, seduce Ezra was really interesting. And Ian McDiarmid played it phenomenally. Also, Ezra got out of it the same way Rey saved the Resistance, by lifting rocks, which I thought was a funny, neat little connection. Oh, by the way, how cool were those Imperial Guard-esque characters that had the staffs that held Ezra in place there? Those were really interesting. They were kind of an evolution of the Imperial Royal Guard, maybe a hint of the Praetorian Guard that we'd eventually see in the sequel trilogy. I thought that was really neat. That whole mission in like the sort of power supply chamber was really neat too. Had some design language from the Phantom Menace, mixed with like A New Hope and a little bit of Return of the Jedi down in the bottom there. And it was a cool battle scene and a good end to Rook, and I'm glad Zeb was the one to take him out. And finally, Ezra and Thrawn's final moments. The Purgles showing up, the hyperspace whales from season 2 that people, thought were filler. I actually didn't mind them. I thought they were kind of cool. Those things showing up and dragging Thrawn's Star Destroyer with Thrawn and Ezra in it into hyperspace was an amazing ending. That shot of Ezra holding his hands out with the Force, with the glass, floating around. I thought, wow, they're really cementing that they're killing both of these characters. This has got to be the end of them. They're going into hyperspace. The windows are broken. This is going to be the end of them. But then we get in that epilogue, Sabine says she knows Ezra's alive, and it's time for her and Ahsoka to go find them. Both Ezra and Thrawn, when I say them. And Dave Filoni has actually also confirmed that Ezra and Thrawn survive. I wish they would have just ended Ezra. I get it, it's satisfying enough of a reason for him to not be around in the original trilogy. They had, again, the perfect opportunity to just end his character like they did with Ahsoka. And once again, I'll reserve judgment for where we see Ezra show up in future stories, but if they don't ever do anything with him, or if they don't do anything sort of narratively satisfying, then I'll think this was a missed opportunity to give the character the ending they deserved. An example of that would be Darth Maul. Honestly, I don't think they should have brought Darth Maul back for the Clone Wars and then back again in Rebels. They gave him a great ending with Obi-Wan and Tatooine. Again, I think that was one of the highlights of Rebels, but I'm not sure it even should have ever been set up. It just always felt kind of cheap and kind of weak to me. The epilogue had a couple other cool things, confirming that Rex was the soldier on Endor, who used to be known as Nick Saint. Jason Syndulla, Hera and Kanan's kid with green hair. All right, maybe we'll see him in the future. And Zeb and Kallus. Kallus I really liked as a character, and I love that they sort of redeemed him and became part of the Rebel Alliance. And that was a nice touch, because if you don't remember, in Season 1, Kallus was responsible for the majority of Zeb species extinction. So I really enjoyed that moment with Zeb and Kallus and how they grew to have a sort of friendship and a bond and an understanding and a forgiveness of each other. So overall, I thought the finale was really, really well executed. Some absolutely beautiful cinematography and, just such skill in the animation department. And some great storytelling. Some things I wish they would have gone a little further in. Example, killing Ezra, committing to it. But I get why they didn't. And overall, it leaves me really excited for the future of Lucasfilm and Star Wars animation. Which takes me to, could the next animated series be titled Star Wars Resistance? This Twitter user found that Lucasfilm trademarked Star Wars Resistance in the same manner it uses to trademark its live-action films and its animated series and such, which is much more extensive than it would be for, say, a video game or like a mobile phone game. This really intrigues me. Star Wars Resistance would be a very fitting follow-up to Star Wars Rebels. It's the next, cell, the next iteration or evolution of our core group of heroes. And there's a lot of different things that could follow. I've got 3 main ideas for the next animated series that I'd love to see happen, and Star Wars Resistance could be the title of 2 of them. The first one that doesn't fit with the Resistance idea is Luke's Jedi Temple, his training temple, his Jedi Academy, the story of him and a younger Ben Solo, and maybe Lor San Tekka as well, going out and finding Jedi relics, finding additional Force-sensitive trainees, students, and just exploring the history of the Jedi and their downfall, and diving deeper into the relationship between Luke and Ben, and possibly offering a little more justification to Luke's actions in The Last Jedi, and some more backstory on how Snoke seduced Ben. And perhaps offering some more backstory on how Snoke seduced Ben from a distance. The other 2 ideas I have and I'd like to personally see, and would fit with the Star Wars Resistance title, would be either sort of like a Rogue Squadron type show following Poe Dameron and other members of the Resistance fleet on various missions, recon missions, going after the First Order, or perhaps helping keep other potential threats to the New Republic and Resistance in line. Probably set before Episode 7, just before Episode 7, or the time between The Last Jedi and Episode 9. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things to explore there. I hope there's a time jump, and a series set between those 2 could help justify whatever happens in that time jump. If Rey finds more Force-sensitive students to help train and be her first wave of Jedi Academy students, or if the Resistance has to band together other systems that are loyal to the Republic to fight the First Order. Those could be interesting things to see. So what did you think of the finale of Star Wars Rebels, and what do you want to see from the future of Star Wars animation? Leave a comment below, let us know, and hey, may the Force be with you.